The crystalline spires of the Zirani defense station Lumera 7 sparkled in the light of three suns, its transparent walls revealing the busy life within. Captain Vela Shimmerscale's iridescent fins rippled with anxiety as she studied the long-range sensor data. Something was wrong with the readings. Very wrong. Confirm analysis. Station intelligence, she commanded, her bioluminescent spots pulsing with concern. The station's AI responded in its characteristic gentle tones, though today they carried an edge of uncertainty. Confirmed, Captain. Unknown vessel detected at coordinates 227 Mark 43. Energy signature exceeds anything in our database by several orders of magnitude. Hull composition includes elements we cannot identify. Vela's fins drew close to her body, a gesture of deep concern among her aquatic species. The Zirani Collective had explored this sector of space for centuries, cataloging every spacefaring race they encountered. Their philosophy of peaceful exploration and cultural exchange had served them well, leading to the formation of the Galactic Concordat, a loose alliance of civilized species. But there were stories that made even the bravest Zirani scales pale. Stories of beings from a world of constant warfare, who had somehow survived their own violence to reach the stars. Humans. Display visual, Vela ordered, and the main screen shimmered to life. The ship that appeared made her heart stop. Aggressive angles of black metal absorbed rather than reflected light. Weapon ports lined its hull like the teeth of an ancient predator. The vessel was massive, easily dwarfing the largest Zirani ships. Match against restricted archives, she whispered, though she already knew what the answer would be. Match found. 99.8% probability. Human warship classification. Historical designation. Dreadnought. The control room erupted in chaos. Junior officers' bioluminescence flickered in panic patterns, their fins quivering. Humans weren't supposed to be in this sector. They'd stayed in their own space for decades, appearing only occasionally to deal with pirates or other threats, leaving destruction in their wake. Signal the collective, Vela ordered, forcing calm into her voice, and begin evacuation procedures for the civilian sections. Captain, her sensor officer called out, his voice trembling. The vessel is changing course. It's heading directly for us. The human ship's movement was wrong. Nothing that large should be able to maneuver so precisely. The Zirani built their ships for efficiency and grace, but this vessel moved like a predator, defying the laws of physics themselves. They're scanning us, the sensor officer reported. Our defense screens, they're not just penetrating them, Captain. It's like our screens don't exist. Vela felt the weight of command settle onto her shoulders. The station housed 10,000 civilians, researchers, families, artists. The Zirani weren't warriors. Their defensive capabilities were meant to deter pirates, not face something like this. Open all channels, she ordered. If these were truly humans, perhaps they could be reasoned with. The stories were unclear on this point. Some said humans respected courage, others that they saw it as a challenge. Before she could transmit, the human ship sent its own message. The words appeared in perfect Zirani script across their main display. Station Lumara 7. This is the UES Hyperion. Hold position and maintain calm. We are not here to harm you. There is something following us. Something worse. The message was so unexpected that for a moment, no one moved. Vela's fins rippled in confusion. This didn't match any of the stories about human first contact. Something worse, her second-in-command whispered. What could be worse than humans? As if in answer, their long-range sensors lit up with new contacts. The readings made no sense. Space itself seemed to be twisting, folding in ways that shouldn't be possible. The human ship's next transmission was shorter. Prepare your defenses. They're coming. The holographic projectors in Lumara 7's central command chamber sparked to life, materializing a figure that made every Zirani present instinctively back away. The human stood nearly twice their height, encased in what appeared to be battle armor that made their already imposing frame even more massive. Captain Vela forced her fins to remain still, fighting against millions of years of evolutionary instinct, screaming at her to flee from this predator. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the UES Hyperion," the human said, her voice surprisingly soft despite her intimidating appearance. "And we have approximately 47 minutes before the first wave arrives." Vela's translator struggled with some of the subtle harmonics in the human speech, but the urgency was clear. "First wave of what, Commander?" The hologram shifted, showing a three-dimensional representation of space around the station. Dark patches appeared, areas where space itself seemed to bend and twist. "We call them Voidborn. They emerged from a dimensional rift in what you would call the Carina sector 3 months ago. They don't communicate, they don't negotiate, and they don't leave survivors." The human's words were interrupted by a priority alert from the station's outer sensors. The readings were impossible, energy signatures that contradicted the fundamental laws of physics. Through the station's transparent walls, Vela could see the stars beginning to distort, as if something was warping the fabric of space itself. "Your station's defensive capabilities are impressive for civilian infrastructure," Commander Chen continued, her armored form moving through the holographic display of sensor data with practiced ease. "But they won't be enough. The Voidborn consume energy. Your shields will only make them stronger." Vela's scientific training warred with her instincts. Consume energy. "That's not possible. The conservation off. They don't obey our physics." Chen cut in, and for the first time, Vela heard something like fear in the human's voice. "That's what makes them so dangerous. We lost 3 colonies learning that. The Hyperion isn't here by chance. We've been hunting them, trying to prevent them from reaching populated space." The sensor officer's fins were practically vibrating with anxiety as new data poured in. "Captain, the anomalies are accelerating. Energy readings are off the scale." Commander Chen's hologram turned to face the readings, her armor systems apparently interfacing directly with the station's sensors. "They're here sooner than expected. Captain Shimmerscale, I need you to trust us. The Hyperion's weapons are specifically designed to fight the Voidborn, but we need your station's sensor network to target them effectively. Will you help us?" Vela felt the weight of 10,000 lives pressing down on her. Everything she knew about humans warned against trusting them. They were violent, unpredictable, capable of destruction on a scale that terrified most civilized species. But as she watched the approaching anomalies tear holes in reality itself, she realized she was facing something far worse than humans had ever been. "What do you need from us?" she asked. The human commander's response was immediate. "Link your sensor grid to our targeting systems, and evacuate everyone from the outer rings of the station. When the Voidborn hit, those sections won't survive." "But the outer rings house our main power generators," Vela's chief engineer protested. "Without them, your power generation methods will only draw them in faster," Chen explained, her hologram displaying tactical data alongside her form. "The Hyperion can provide power to your essential systems. We've learned to modulate our energy emissions in ways the Voidborn can't process." Through the station's walls, the first visual signs of the enemy appeared. They defied description. Shapes that seemed to exist in more dimensions than space allowed, trailing tentacles of pure void that consumed light itself. Where they touched the station's outer sensor arrays, matter simply ceased to exist. "They're testing your defenses," Chen said grimly. "Captain, we need that sensor link now. The Hyperion's main cannon can disrupt their dimensional stability, but only if we can get a clear lock on their core structures." Vela made her decision. "Do it," she ordered her crew. "Full integration with the human ship systems." As her officers rushed to comply, she turned back to the human commander. "Why are you helping us? Everything we know about humans suggests you prefer to remain isolated, intervening only in the most extreme circumstances." For a moment, Commander Chen was silent, her armored form still amid the chaos of preparation. "Because we remember," she said finally. We remember what it was like to face extinction alone. Humanity survived because we learned to fight, to become what you fear. But we didn't become strong just to watch others perish. The void entities were surrounding the station now, their impossible geometries casting shadows that shouldn't exist. The Hyperion's engines flared to life, positioning the massive warship between the station and the approaching horror. Besides, Chen added, and Vela could hear the grim smile in her voice, someone needs to teach these cosmic horrors that humanity's neighborhood has rules. And the first rule is, you don't touch our neighbors. The first impact shook Lumira 7 to its foundations. The void-born entities slammed against the station's outer sections like waves of living darkness, each strike erasing matter from existence. Through the chaos, the UES Hyperion moved with impossible precision, its black hull absorbing energy pulses that would have vaporized any normal ship. Multiple breaches detected in sectors 7 through 12. The station's AI reported, its usual gentle tones replaced by rapid-fire updates. Structural integrity failing in outer rings. Captain Vela watched in horror as sections of her station simply vanished, consumed by the impossible geometries of the Voidborn. But where the entities struck, the Hyperion responded. The human warship's weapons were like nothing she'd ever seen. Beams of coherent darkness that seemed to fold space itself, tearing the Voidborn apart at some fundamental level. Your sensor data is perfect. Commander Chen's voice came through the newly established link. We're hitting their dimensional anchor points. But there are too many. We need to change tactics. Through the command center screens, Vela could see the Hyperion's true capabilities unleashed. What had seemed like weapon ports were actually housing for devices that defied comprehension. The human ship fired projectiles that exploded into miniature black holes, tore open spacetime with calculated precision, and wielded energies that shouldn't exist outside the cores of stars. How? Vela's chief scientist whispered, his fins trembling as he studied the readings. How did your species develop these technologies? Necessity, Chen replied grimly. When the Voidborn first appeared, our conventional weapons were useless. So we adapted, evolved, built weapons that break the same laws of physics they ignore. Speaking of which, Captain Shimmerscale, we're about to try something that's going to seem insane. Before Vela could respond, the Hyperion's engines flared with impossible brightness. The massive warship accelerated directly toward the largest concentration of Voidborn, its hull beginning to glow with energies that made the station's sensors scream in protest. What are you doing? Vela demanded, watching as the human ship seemed to be preparing to ram the entities. Something we learned from studying the Voidborn, Chen explained, her voice steady despite the chaos. They exist partially outside normal spacetime, so we're going to match them. Captain, I need you to divert all power to your structural integrity fields. The next few minutes are going to get weird. The Hyperion's form began to blur, its edges becoming indistinct as it accelerated. The ship seemed to exist in multiple places at once, leaving trails of reality-scaring energy in its wake. The Voidborn reacted, their impossible geometries twisting as they tried to adapt to this new threat. By the three suns, Vela's tactical officer breathed. They're afraid. The Voidborn are actually retreating from the human ship. They remember us. Chen's voice had taken on an odd echo, as if speaking from multiple times at once. We're the only prey that ever fought back. The only food that learned to bite. Ready for Phase 2. The Hyperion's maneuver had scattered the Voidborn, creating space between them and the station. But Vela could see the entities regrouping, their void-black forms merging into something larger, more terrible. The very fabric of space was beginning to tear around them. They're combining their dimensional manipulation abilities, Chen reported. Last time we saw this, we lost a carrier group. But this time, we're ready. Captain Shimmerscale, remember when I said humans prefer to be isolated? Yes. Vela responded, watching as the Hyperion's form continued to blur and shift. That's because when we work together, things tend to get explosive. Signal coming through from hyperspace. The cavalry's arriving. Space ripped open. Not the organic, horrifying tears created by the Voidborn, but precise, calculated ruptures in reality. Through these artificial holes in space came more human ships, each as black and terrible as the Hyperion, each moving with the same impossible grace. Battle Group 7, reporting for duty. A new voice joined the command channel. Sorry we're late, Chen. Had to finish calibrating the new reality anchors. These the neighbors you mentioned. The Zirani have been helpful, Chen replied. Their sensor technology is impressive. Speaking of which, Captain Shimmerscale, you might want to record what happens next. Your scientists will have questions. The human battle group moved into formation around the Hyperion, their ships arranging themselves in a pattern that made Vela's eyes hurt to look at. Energy began to flow between them, creating a web of power that seemed to exist in more dimensions than space could allow. Dimensional resonance cascade in 3, Chen announced. 2, 1. The human ships fired as one, their combined weapons creating something that Vela's mind refused to fully process. Where the energy struck, the Voidborn didn't just die. They unraveled, their impossible forms pulled apart at a quantum level. The void entities screamed in frequencies that shouldn't exist, their combined form trying to retreat into whatever dark dimension they'd emerged from. But the humans had learned from their previous encounters. The battle group's weapons had created a kind of dimensional cage, trapping the Voidborn in normal spacetime. Now you see why we keep to ourselves. Chen's voice was almost gentle. The galaxy isn't ready for how humanity fights its wars. But sometimes, when the darkness comes, sometimes you need monsters to fight monsters. In the aftermath of the battle, Lumara 7's command center had become an impromptu war room. Holographic displays showed the debris field where the Voidborn had been destroyed, strange energies still rippling through space. Commander Chen's armored form stood among the Zirani officers, no longer a source of instinctive fear, but of wary respect. The Voidborn aren't gone, Chen explained, manipulating the holographic display with practiced ease. What we destroyed was just a scouting party. There's a reason we call them waves. They come in increasing numbers, testing defenses, learning from each encounter. Vela studied the tactical data the humans had shared. The patterns were clear now. Each Voidborn incursion had been larger than the last, their strategies evolving with each encounter. They're intelligent, she realized. Not just predatory. They're studying us. Exactly, Chen confirmed. We thought they were just cosmic horrors at first, mindless entities consuming everything in their path. But they're methodical. They're preparing for something bigger. The human commander brought up new data, showing the path of Voidborn attacks across multiple sectors. Vela's fins rippled in shock as she recognized the pattern. They're herding species, she whispered, forcing civilizations to evacuate in specific directions, creating refugee crises, destabilizing regional politics. Another human officer added. Captain Drake of the UES Thermopylae had joined them, his dark skin contrasting with the stark white of his command uniform. While everyone's focused on surviving and relocating, they're quietly surrounding key strategic positions. The station's sensors pinged a warning. New energy signatures were appearing at the edge of their range. More tiers in spacetime, but these were different from both the Voidborn rifts and the human ship's calculated jumps. Through the station's transparent walls, Vela could see ships emerging from hyperspace, the distinctive organic curves of Zirani vessels. The collective responds to your distress call, a familiar voice announced over the command channel. High Admiral Nexus, her scales shimmering with the bioluminescent patterns of highest authority. Her image appeared in the command center, taking in the scene with obvious surprise, particularly the presence of human officers among her people. Admiral, Vela began, but Chen stepped forward. Your people are in danger, the human commander said without preamble. Not just from the Voidborn, but from their true purpose. We've decoded enough of their quantum communications to understand their goal. They're not just consuming. They're transforming space itself, changing the fundamental constants of our universe to match their own. The Admiral's fins drew close to her body, a gesture of deep concern. Transforming? How? Drake activated another holographic display, showing the aftermath of a void-born conquered sector. The very stars looked wrong, their light distorted by changes to the underlying fabric of space-time. They're creating beachheads, he explained, areas where their physics dominate, where they can exist fully in our dimension. Once they establish enough of these zones, they'll begin connecting them. The refugee movements, Vela realized. They're clearing space for these transformation zones, but why haven't they succeeded already? They clearly have the power. Because of humanity, Chen said simply. We were the first species they encountered that could hurt them back. Our homeworld, Earth, exists in a region of space with unusual properties, the same properties that made us strong, that forced us to adapt and survive, make us naturally resistant to their reality warping abilities. Admiral Nexus studied the humans with new understanding. This is why you've remained isolated, why you appear only to fight pirates or intervene in disasters. You've been containing the Voidborn. Trying to, Drake corrected, but they're learning, adapting. The next wave will be larger, and it's coming soon. We need allies. The Zirani Collective's sensor technology, combined with your understanding of spatial dynamics. Together, we might have a chance to do more than just contain them. Through the station's walls, Vela could see more human ships arriving, each as terrifying in its own way as the Hyperion. But now she understood. Their aggressive designs, their reality-breaking weapons, even their tendency toward isolation, it had all been shaped by this secret war. There's something else, Chen added, her voice grave. Something we discovered in their communications. The Voidborn aren't just invading. They're running from something worse, something that scares even them. And whatever it is, it's following them into our galaxy. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. Vela looked at her admiral, then at the humans who had saved her station. The galaxy was changing, and survival would require something more than peaceful exploration. Then we better start preparing. Admiral Nexus said finally. It seems humanity has been fighting alone long enough. 3 days after the battle at Lumara 7, the station's Great Hall hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from the Zirani Collective sat alongside human military officers, their differences stark, but their purpose unified. The holographic displays showed real-time updates from across the galaxy. More Voidborn incursions, more tears in reality, but now met with coordinated resistance. Commander Chen stood before the assembled leaders, her battle armor recording everything for Earth's archives. The Voidborn have changed their pattern, she reported. They're no longer avoiding populated sectors. Our defensive strategy has forced them to accelerate their timeline. Captain Vela, now serving as liaison between human forces and the Collective, brought up the latest sensor data. The Zirani's advanced detection systems, combined with human battle tactics, had revealed the true scope of the invasion. Hundreds of reality tiers were forming along the galactic arm, each potentially holding thousands of Voidborn. They're preparing for a mass incursion, Admiral Nexus observed, her scales pulsing with tactical patterns. But thanks to the humans' quantum decryption, we know their target. The display shifted, showing the galactic core. They're after the supermassive black hole at the galaxy's center. If they can corrupt its space-time signature, they can transform the entire galaxy in one move, Captain Drake finished. Turn our reality into their feeding ground. But that's not the worst part. He looked to Chen, who nodded grimly. We've finished analyzing their latest communications, Chen continued. Whatever's chasing them, it's already here. The Voidborn aren't just invading our galaxy. They're trying to turn it into a fortress against something even they fear. The hall erupted in concerned murmurs. Vela's fins rippled as she processed this information. How can we fight an enemy that terrifies even the Voidborn? Together, Chen said simply. Humanity has been fighting alone because we had to. Our world made us strong, made us able to resist the Voidborn's reality manipulation. But strength isn't enough anymore. We need the Zirani's understanding of space-time mechanics, your sensor technology, your diplomatic connections with other species. Admiral Nexus rose, her authority patterns glowing bright. The collective has already begun reaching out to other civilizations. The Meridian Cluster has pledged their quantum computing networks. The Helios Confederation is offering their solar energy expertise. And humanity? Asked one of the Zirani scientists. What else have you been developing in your isolation? Chen's armor shifted, panels opening to reveal technology that made the scientist's fins quiver. Project Prometheus, she explained. A way to weaponize reality itself. Not just fighting the Voidborn's dimensional manipulation, but turning it against them. With Zirani sensor technology, we can perfect it. The cost will be high, Drake warned. Not just in resources, but in changing who we are. The weapons we'll need to build, the decisions we'll have to make. We've seen what happens to those who can't adapt, Vela said, thinking of the destroyed sectors, the consumed worlds. Sometimes survival requires evolution. The station's AI interrupted with a priority alert. Long-range sensors had detected something massive emerging from the space between galaxies. The readings were unlike anything they'd seen before. Not the chaotic tears of the Voidborn, but something colder, more calculated. It's their hunters, Chen breathed, watching the readings. The thing the Voidborn fear. It's found them. Admiral Nexus straightened, her decision made. Then let them find not just their prey, but a galaxy united. Humanity has guarded our reality alone for too long. It's time we all stood together.